Hello folks, I just want to demo how you can do a cross-hatching drawing in Adobe Illustrator. So here I have done the one-line drawing for the line assignment. You can see I basically have not taken the pen off the page once you put the pen down. And this can be digitally or on paper. You have to draw everything from one line. I will just quickly demo that first. So basically I want to have no fill here, and I want to have a stroke, a black stroke. So basically I'm just getting a line without a fill color in the middle. And you can use either the brush or the pencil here or here. So my mouse is moving right. Okay. So it's N key if you want to use the pencil, and B if you want to use this, or you can select them. Either way will work. I also choose my line width up here, and then a profile, which is basically the width. So something like this, where you can see it's got smaller edges or ends, it's going to look like this. Notice I'm retracing some areas there, so I can keep my pen on the paper without lifting it up. Sometimes my pen will stop after a little while, stop working, so I'm going to have to start over there. That's just my tablet. Same thing keeps happening. Just going to try using the mouse here. Okay, so that's one way you can do this. Now, another part of the assignment we often do is cross-hatching. So as opposed to just having to draw all the lines, one cool thing you can do in Adobe Illustrator is to make your own pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a line tool of some sort here. I prefer the pen. Once again, I don't want to fill, but I do want to stroke. And I really want to think about the size of the line, because what I'm basically doing is I'm making a series of blocks. And if you remember cross-hatching, it's where the lines are all the same color, like using ink, but how close they are to each other is what determines how dense they are, how dark or light it looks. So I'll go ahead and select these. Now we have a cool tool here that will kind of fill things in between us, or for us here in between these two, and it's called the blend tool. So for this, I'll just go ahead and click on it here. And if you double click it, you get some options. I don't care about the color, but I want specified steps. And I'm going to estimate 10 steps in between those two. And then you click on one when you see the star, click on the other when you see the plus. Now, because I think I have rounded edges on these lines, so when you are making a line, it can have a rounded edge. Let me just double check here. And I think that's the issue I have. If you hit stroke here, you can actually round those edges. That might not be it. They look rounded. I don't think that's going to mess me up though, so that's okay. Now you'll notice only this line, and this line's selectable. That's because these are basically non-destructive, editable at this point. So I could click one of them, and move it, and it's gonna just kind of adapt, right? So if I want to make them actual editable lines, I have to use something called expand. So first thing I'm going to do is Control C and Control F to copy and paste in front. And then I'm going to rotate these. And what I'm looking to get is basically a square. And I want the edges of that square to line up so that when it tiles, meaning when it keeps making sections and reproducing this, they line up fine on the edges where it meets. That can be a little tricky. So let's see here. If you want to make it editable, you can go up here to Object while it's all selected, and you can hit Expand Appearance. And this will take things that are in editable state and make it so they're, I guess you could say, set in stone. It makes those editable changes more permanent, so each piece is editable as paths or as points. So let's see. Object, Expand Appearance. Okay. So we want both the object and the fill, I think, in this case. And then you can also go Window, Pathfinder, and you can join this together if you want. So it's solid and filled. Now it is possible to make a perfect square by holding Shift. And what I'm going to try to do is use a square to actually cut out part of that to make sure I get a perfectly square area. That allows me to select these little pieces. I'm going to undo a couple times. Let's see if I can do this again. I'll try trim. Sometimes you have to double click these two to actually get rid of the parts you want. So there we go, I double clicked it. Just being careful to only delete the little parts I want to there. Oh. Sometimes it takes a little experimentation with which of these modes is best to use. There we go, crop. That worked well. So I would use crop personally. This leaves us with the perfect square of this. We can go into Object, Pattern, Make. As you can see, a new pattern's been added to swatches, which is up here. Or if you can't find it, you can go to Window, find it down here. So we get this little system here where we can go in and name it. So I'm going to say dark because I plan to have this be my darker value color. We can change a lot of stuff here, like how many copies there are. Now what I want to see, I'm going to adjust my vertical and horizontal values here. So I'm using the arrow keys to do this. I'm just tapping up or down. I want them to line up, so now you can see that we get a good tiling here where it doesn't look like it's skipping any part, it matches up well. So at that point, I'm just going to say, okay, this is good to go, named it. I should be able to just close it. And now it lives in here right there if I want to use it. So notice I'm going to say done up here. Okay, so that's good. I can actually delete this because it's in my swatches. Let's do one more. And actually, if you wanted to, some people prefer starting with a square, so we'll try that this time. Now, I don't want to fill for the square. I want to just have a line around it. I'll hold Shift. Notice I have a 1-point line. I'm going to figure out about now I want these lines to be uniform. Notice the space between this one and this one is not the same, so I can click on it and tap the arrow key to get some really fine control over where it moves. I'm going to click that one, hold Shift, and click this one. And once again, I'm going to estimate about how many I would need between those to make it even. I'm going to say maybe 8. Okay, that's pretty good. These line up pretty evenly. Okay, I'll select this. And I'll copy it, Command C and Command F. I'm going to go to the corner here to rotate, and I'll hold Shift. You can also hit Command G to group this if you want, so it stays together when you move it. Okay, next we'll do pattern, make. Okay, so that looks good to me. Let's call this mid. Now notice we're not changing the color because cross-hatching is all about the proximity or closeness of the lines to each other to achieve what looks like a value, like a gray to white or black scale. So all I have to do once I have this all set is close it. Now you can see this line thickness doesn't line up perfectly, but that's fine with me for what I'm doing here. And I'll say done. Quick note, if you double click something, you're basically going into an edit state where you go inside and you're editing that particular thing. And you can keep clicking further and further into an object. So notice I'm inside the blend itself now. You can back out here using this arrow to back out levels. Okay, so now we have 2 of these. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. Now what we can do is we can actually use a paintbrush and change our fill to be our pattern. So I'm painting with what actually looks like crosshatching. I'm changing my brush size a little bit here. Now ideally I would do a lot more colors in this. So the problem here is I got a stroke and a fill. Let's check this. There we go. And you can actually do layers of shading.